Hey y'all, it's Betsy from Cuttin Corners Vinyl. And over here I like to focus on all things vinyl, sublimation, and screen printing. I don't focus on perfection because without mistakes, how else are you supposed to learn anything? I have over 15 years of professional experience, if you want to call it that. So you might see things done a little bit differently over here than what you're used to seeing them. I also am dealing with a lot of health issues right now, so I might stumble over my words or make mistakes in my tutorial. I usually correct them, but sometimes I might miss over that. The doctors, there's a lot of doctors, are still trying to figure them out, so please be patient with me. I still know what I'm talking about, even if I misspeak. Trust me. I also am extremely honest about affiliate links and when products are sent to me. So if that sounds like something you're into, you might want to stick around and think about joining the Cuttin Corners family. At least I can still laugh at myself. If not, you might want to buzz on because my honeybees have a real sting to them. So today we are going to be talking all about layering because I've gotten a lot of questions about layering HTV lately. When to use it, how does it actually work, and why, to slice some things and not others. So we're going to get into all about it. And if that sounds like it, something you want to watch, then stick around. Let's talk about layering. I'm going to show you both for Silhouette and Cricut how it lays out with a solid background and a slice background. Now I'm not going to show you the design process, but I will show you how to subtract or how to slice for both of them. I will show you the weeding process and how it actually lays out for both. I will also show you how to apply both of them because I think that's a little bit important, because I think seeing it is definitely something that makes it a little bit easier. Now I'm not going to show you how it cuts on the machine because that is a long process and it's kind of the boring thing. And if you want to see how to cut vinyl on a machine, I do have videos on that, how to load your mats and all that, because once you've seen one, you've seen it all. That's pretty self-explanatory. Now let's talk about the two different versions, because to me that's kind of it. You've either got a solid background for layering or you've got a sliced. There's really not an in-between. Now this design that I'm using today is something that I created. It's available on my Patreon, but you do not have to use the same design. You can download it off my Patreon. It is linked in the description box, but you can use whatever design you want to. Now, this one has the solid background. Okay? This is what it looks like. The shirt for this is just a Hanes Comfort Tee. The vinyl that I'm using is all Specialty Materials brand. This is the Thermoflex Plus. This is black, aquamarine, and white. And then this is the Neon Coral Glitter Flex Ultra over the top. And then this t-shirt is an Amazon Basics. And the vinyls on this is the black Thermoflex Plus, the aquamarine Thermoflex Plus, and then I have the Paint FX Pearl and the Neon Coral Glitter Flex Ultra. So while we're sitting here, I wanted to kind of show you one of the big differences between sliced and not sliced, because you want to know to slice or not to slice. That is the question. Now I will have chapters to show you Silhouette, Cricut, because that part they're going to kind of be the same, but the weeding, that kind of thing, is going to be different. But this is kind of the difference. Okay, so this is what let me turn this one inside out so you can kind of see it a little bit better. but this is the big kicker behind it. But I do have tricks, tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier to working with slicing, because setting up slicing is a hard thing, because learning how to do it is hard. But this is sliced on this hand. See how much? Now glitter sounds terrible because it's crispy sounding because it's got texture to it, but see how thick that is versus sliced? See the difference in the movability? So sliced, not sliced. See the heaviness? So I prefer sliced for that reason alone. Plus you can have a lot of different textures that you can mix and match, because whenever you're working with sliced, you can layer a lot of different things. Whenever you're not slicing, there's a lot of things that you cannot put on top of each other. So if you're interested in seeing this, stay tuned. We're going to talk about the difference between a solid and a sliced image. And I figured the easiest way to do it is we're going to show you side by side what a sliced versus solid image looks like. Now, the file that I'm using today is available on my Patreon page. Now, you don't have to have this image to follow along. You can use whatever image you want to, but if you want to use it, it is available there, which is www.patreon.com/BetsyGocher, and it is linked in the description box. So, I'm in Silhouette Studio right now, but I'm going to show you both in Cricut Design Space, but this is what I have open. So let's start off by showing you what a solid versus a sliced image is, what it looks like, and the benefits versus the negatives for both. This is a solid image, and what I mean by solid is whenever I pull the layers apart, each section is solid. Each piece, now there are holes for the center of the letters, but where they go on top of each other is solid. On our sliced, subtracted, each program calls it something different. When I pull these apart, each color, there's not any of the other color behind it. Now let's talk about the benefits of each. Now, when we talk about the benefits of a solid background like this, why would we use something like this? It is extremely beginner friendly, because you're not having to worry about lining it up as much, because when you're lining up a sliced image, it is a little bit more difficult, even with my trick, because you've got tiny little lines, and we're going to zoom in some so you can see the difference, because you've got to match up all those little bitty pieces. And I'll still show you the trick again for this whenever, because we're going to put both of these shirts together. So this is much easier to do. It's going to be faster, and time is money whenever you're selling it. So again, this is a lot more beginner friendly. It's going to be faster. And a lot of times for a lot of people, this can look better because you're not going to have the gaps. You're not going to have to worry about those types of things. It's just going to look cleaner. What are the benefits to using sliced image? You're going to have more versatility, because you can use a lot more vinyls with it, because there's a lot of vinyls that you cannot layer on top of each other. You cannot put a glitter on top of a glitter. It's not going to last through the wash. So if you're doing an image this way, the final layer is the only place you can put a glitter. And there are only certain colors that can be layered on top of each other. This way you are very limited to what can be put on top. So it's a negative for the solid, but a positive for the sliced. The sliced image is going to be much cooler, because you're not going to have layer upon layer upon layer of vinyl. In vinyl, whenever you have one layer of vinyl, isn't super heavy, but when you've got 4 layers of vinyl, it can start to get heavy. So positive for slice, a negative for layer, or for solid. So there is another. For sliced, a negative for it is, again, it's harder to line up. Again, even with the trick, it can be more difficult, because you have to make sure that you're standing kind of right over it, even though it's easier with the trick. But you have to make sure all of those little bitty teeny tiny pieces, because there are still, look, see, like that little tiny little black piece in there, you have to make sure that's lined up. You got to make sure that you actually weed it and it stays in place, because with this solid image, those you don't have to worry about coming off. You do have to make sure that they don't come off over here. That makes it a little bit more difficult. So that can be a negative. Again, negatives versus positives. So it kind of just depends on skill level and what you're wanting to work with. Let's go ahead and delete this one off of here, and we will talk about setting this up to cut. All of the colors are going to be cut on regular heat transfer, other than the coral color, which is neon coral. Now the white for the sliced one is going to be the Paint FX Pearl, and this is going to be Thermaflex Plus Black, Thermaflex Plus Aquamarine, Paint FX Pearl, White, and then Glitterflex Ultra Neon Coral. So this is all going to be cut on regular heat transfer and then heat transfer glitter. So let's go ahead and close out of this, and then you just select by color. So I'd do the black first, and then go to the aquamarine, and then go from there. So we can go back to design, and then we would do the same thing for our solid. But instead of doing the pearl, we would set this up with regular Thermaflex white. Before I forget to show you how to slice or subtract in Silhouette Studio, we're going to go over here to our modify window, which is the one that kind of looks like the geometry symbol, the modify panel. So I moved the other two out of the way so you could see this, and I just selected the aquamarine and the black, and I'm going to click subtract all, and then I can move this out of the way, and that's how you subtract. It's pretty easily. Okay. Now I'm going to go down here to Cricut Design Space. I'm going to go ahead and upload our images. So I've already brought them in here, so I'm going to take and select them and add to canvas, because Cricut's been running a little slow. Let's go ahead and move the sliced image. Wrong one. Let's move the sliced image out of the way. Get rid of the background. I don't need that. As I said before, I always save this with the background. Okay. So again, we've got our image with the solid background. So it looks like this. We know the benefits of it. And let's go ahead and hide the top 2 layers so I can show you how to slice. If it wants to behave. So let's go ahead and hide that, which is the black layer. Now the way that Cricut works sometimes, it gave me double. Don't know why. I'm not a fan of how Cricut slices. So as you can see, I just welded the aquamarine back together because when you slice with it, it slices both bottom and top at the same time. Why, I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and delete that because it gave me double. And let's hide our top aquamarine layer. And there you go. So it does the exact same thing. And we can take and show that again. And weld that back together. And it really doesn't matter the order of those, but we're all put back together. When you do it that way, we lost the centers. There we go. So now we're back together. But you can easily slice in Cricut as well. You just want to make sure when you do it that you weld the top part of what you're slicing from back, or just make a copy of it, which is also just as easy, which is what I should have done. Let's go ahead and ungroup this. Get rid of the background. Now the good thing about Cricut is it will automatically separate out our colors. We can go ahead and hide, hide, and hide. And again, we'll just take and click on Make It. We also want to make sure, since we are cutting this out of HTV, we do want to make sure to mirror it. But other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. Cut everything on heat transfer except for the top layer, and we're going to cut that on glitter. So if you'll give me a moment to change the camera angle, we will show you how to put this together. I have my light pad, and we're going to go ahead and weed this. We're going to start with our solid background, and then we're going to go to our slice one. I figured that this was going to be a great way for you to actually see how the layers work. So we're going to do this kind of by color and the order that it goes in. So we're going to start off with the black because that's going to be your first layer color. Now for the sliced layers, it's really not going to matter what order that it goes in, but for the solids, it will. Again, this is mirrored, so it's going to be backwards while we're weeding, but I can show you right side up. Now I am using Specialty Materials Thermoflex Plus for the main colors in the solid other than the top layer, and then I'm going to use Specialty Materials Glitter Flex Ultra. Trying to make sure I don't put my head in frame. I constantly do that because I need to see, and I'm short, but I don't want to do that, so y'all can see. It's the hard part about filming, is making sure I'm showing y'all what y'all need to see, and then seeing what I need to see, especially since my vision now is so bad. And this is one of the light pads that I tested out. This is the big one. This is the brightest one, which I really like the size of this and the brightness of it. So that's why I'm using this. Okay, so this is the black layer, all weeded. So we'll turn that over and set that to the side. So next up is our white. So again, this is the Thermoflex Plus. White. There we go. I love this stuff. I have a wash test video, in case you're wondering, on how this compares to the Caesar Easy Weed, a 50 wash test video. I also have a video showing how they cut and all that compared to each other. What's the matter, boo-boo? And I'll link it up in the cards so you can watch it if you're interested, because there's a reason why this one's my favorite. And this one's not going to line up exactly center with each other because this is a drop shadow. The black and the white together. So it lines up more like that. So it looks a little odd, but the other parts do line up exact. So it looks a little weird. Now, for the sliced image, that's the part on this that does make, to me, that one line up a little bit easier. But, you know, there's going to be benefits to each, as I said. To each kind. But the colors that I'm using in the Thermoflex Plus for this one is the white, the black, and aquamarine. And then we are using, for the top color, a glitter color. We're using the Glitterflex Ultra by Specialty Materials in the Neon Coral, because it's still summertime and I wanted a bright, pretty color, because I like bright colors. And whenever you're doing this solid background outline, how it starts to get heavier. Nope, I'm lining it up wrong. So no, it's the aquamarine and then the white. And then our final color, which is our coral glitter. This is a beautiful, beautiful color. And the file I'm using is available on my Patreon page. So But you, as I said before, you can use whatever file that you want to. It really doesn't matter. This is just a tutorial to show you how to do it. And the only reason I'm doing the weeding process is so you can kind of understand how it works. There we go. And then last but certainly not least, the neon coral. So, this is what it looks like all put together. And this is kind of what I mean by heaviness. Because now, don't get me wrong, this is going to look heavier because it has all of the cover sheets with it. But this is a lot of thickness together. So we're going to start off just like we did before with our black, because that's the first layer. But, I mean, really, for the sliced, it doesn't matter which color you put down first, because it goes together like a puzzle. So, slicing vinyl is pretty easy to weed because a lot of times there's not a lot of centers to weed out, but where you have to be careful is small pieces. So there's our black. Now we're going to do our aquamarine. And you don't have to be super delicate with HTV. People think all the time that you have to be super delicate. You don't. It's not going to go anywhere. And actually, let's see what that looks like now. There we go. Now we got our white pearl layer. So we're going to use, for this one, we're going to use the Paint FX white pearl because I'm extra and I didn't want to use just plain white. I get bored, which is plain white. And you can see, I'll be able to show you this a little bit better up here. See how that's not just plain boring white, it has like a pearl effect to it. Much prettier. I mean, there's a time and place for plain white, but this makes it so much better. And if y'all are wondering, the picks that I'm using, I used to sell them on my website. I don't sell anymore. I found them on Amazon, as well as there's a place called US Cutter, I was told sells them as well. But if you don't want to buy them in bulk, I have them linked in my Amazon store. They're a lot more expensive on Amazon, but they are free shipping. The last time I looked, they were sold out, but it's US Cutter has them, but it's not free shipping. So there's both. So just to kind of give you a heads up, the Amazon is affiliated, the US Cutter is not, but they are great. This vinyl's a little bit thicker, so it does take a little bit more effort to weed, but I mean, it's still not difficult. But to have that kind of pearly finish, you gotta have a little bit, it's a little bit more. To do and deal with. So, anyways, but that's part of the reason why, as I said, I like being able to do the slice, is because you can mix more finishes. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this video, is so you understand, in case you don't, the purpose behind slicing. Because a lot of people, even if you're not a beginner, may not understand the difference between both and the reasoning behind it, and even for adhesive as well. Now, for the most part, for adhesive, you don't really have to worry about slicing, but you do if you're working with like transparents and stuff like that. Like if you're doing a sign that has like going on plexiglass or something like that, you have to slice if you're going to have transparent vinyls on it. You can't have a red background and have white over the top and want to be able to see through it and it not be sliced. And yes, this is more work than sublimation, but you cannot get these different finishes together out of sublimation. So there we go. On to our last. There we go. So you see what I mean? Now, because these are sliced out of each other, this is not going to be near as heavy, because there's no backing layer behind it. And so this is, you see how you can see through those pieces versus see through those pieces all the way through, because this is pretty much piece on top of piece on top of piece. There's nothing behind each layer. So the shirt sits against each vinyl. So the shirt will touch the coral. The shirt doesn't touch the coral here. The shirt doesn't touch the white. The shirt doesn't touch the aquamarine. The shirt touches each color here. So hopefully that makes sense. So again, there's not a method per per se that is really better, but I would recommend, if you can, to use the slice method. So let's go apply some vinyl. Before I place the tea on the press, I want to show you this. This is that heat transfer sticky. I just have it on the inside of the shirt. See, here's the back side of the tea right there. So it's just stuck to the inside front of the shirt, and that just acts as a stabilizer. So whenever you go to pull your heat transfer off, it keeps it from lifting the shirt. Makes it a whole lot easier. So now what I'm doing is I'm just laying the shirt straight on the press. And when I do this, I just take the shoulder seams and pull them where they're straight on either sides of the palette, and then with the neck off. Very easy to do because shirts aren't sewn straight. They're not. In the screen printing world, this is how you line them up. And then I'm using my t-shirt guide. I have a video on how to make this. I also have the templates available on my Patreon page. You don't need anything super fancy. It's made to the size of your heat press. Very, very simple. Now, how we're going to line this up, because the way that this is done, it's a little bit different because it's a drop shadow. We take and put these two together, how they're going to lay out, because got to put the drop shadow on the correct way. The drop shadow isn't centered. So if we center this with the black, it won't be straight. And if we center it just with, we can't put the teal on first because it's not straight, because it's got a solid backing. So we have to take and place these the way that we're going to place them, if that makes sense. So like this. How our design is supposed to look on this shirt. Because as I said, this, if we put it straight with the black layer, it will not look straight on the shirt at all. So we have to base it off of the two pieces together. So like that. So now what we do is, since we have those two pieces together, we take the furthest most piece of teal with the furthest most piece of black, and that's our center mark. We give it a little tiny crease. Okay, then we're going to take and put that center on our center mark on our t-shirt guide. Right where it says center. There we go. Just like that. Okay? Now, Pull our t-shirt guide off. Now you'll want to cover this with a Teflon sheet, something like that. My heat press, if you look at the top, has a Teflon sheet built in. Now my heat press is preheated to 320 degrees for 15 seconds. Now I'm not gonna let it go for the full 15 seconds, and it is on a medium pressure. Now I have this is a sure pressure, so it is set on a 3.7. So, just to let you know. But you see how that doesn't lift or pull? That's why we do it that way, with that layer behind it. So as you can see, it saves time. I probably need to change the time because this has an auto open. So that way I'm not making it open. I'm gonna change it to 6 seconds because it only needs the full 15 seconds for the last one. Because what's the point of having an auto open if I'm not letting it do its job? So there we go. Let it do its thing. There we go. Again, you can see it doesn't lift, it doesn't stretch. This is why we love this process. Doing layers was never so easy. Ever, ever, ever. Ever, ever, ever. There we go. Okay. And again, the hardest part of this isn't actually the vinyl portion. It's me. Because that's where I have issues. There we go. Doesn't that look so good? And see what I mean about it melting together? You can't even see where I poked those holes. And last but certainly not least is our final. And I'm going to do this one for 6 seconds only because we're going to take and pull the sticky out of the center of it and reheat it. So it just makes it easier. But doesn't that look so good? So good. So we're gonna pull the sticky out of the center. See how good that looks? Lay it back under there. Look how good that looks. No issues whatsoever. We've got our t-shirt loaded on here straight, or straight as possible, because again, shirts aren't sewn completely straight. Body feels pretty straight on here. Got our t-shirt guide. Neck pulled off. Just like we did before, we have our black and our teal together. Gonna have our outermost point of black and the aquamarine. Give ourselves a crease mark. Now this shirt is for me, so I typically will bring my shirt up to about the V-neck mark because I have a larger chest and I like them to fit the text to start a little bit higher, and that's just personal preference, because if not, they look a little bit funny on me. But again, that is personal preference. There we go. Make sure to peel the top. I gotta do that again. But I already have my center mark, so I don't have to actually put them together again, at least. Okie dokie. Looks pretty good to me. Okie dokie. This is what I say. I practice what I preach. We don't show perfection. Because, you know, we all make mistakes. All of us. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've been doing this for 50 years. We all make mistakes. There we go. To me, slicing it really does go faster, in my opinion. At least for me now. Because you can see exactly where things are supposed to go. To me, it eliminates some of the guesswork. But, you know, the act of actually doing the layout for slicing can be more complex. That's also the hard part behind it. Slicing and getting it right where you don't end up with a lot of extra marks and things like that can be difficult. Next up, last but certainly not least, is our glitter. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love it. Isn't it pretty? Don't you just think she's pretty?
I think she's pretty. And again, you can't really tell where I messed up the bottom line. But this is so much thinner on the shirt too. Okay, so this is full 4 layers of vinyl. You can feel or hear and see that that is pretty thick on that shirt. This is sliced. That is not near as thick. And that's a glitter. That is easy on you. And you can see how much thinner that is in comparison to that. So hopefully you learned something today. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you already haven't. But I guess that's it, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.